the CEO and founder of BioRadiant Health. With over 25 years of experience as a nurse practitioner, Laura has helped thousands of patients, both in person and virtual settings. Her mission is to help people solve the root cause of chronic health conditions by supporting cellular energy production, gut health, and detoxifying your body. She has created 6 online functional medicine health summits that have impacted countless lives, including myself and my daughter. Her unique approach combines traditional and functional medicine, making her highly sought after as an expert in her field. Known as the Energy Lady in her community, Laura is committed to helping people achieve optimal health and wellness. Oh, Laura, thank you so much for being my guest.
It's such a pleasure, Susan. We were so excited when you reached out and said, hey, could you come talk over here on my podcast? And of course.
And what podcast? I didn't know you had one, since this is the first one.
Oh, amazing.
So good, so good. So today we're going to discuss health practices. This is a podcast that helps bring real life change that can happen with individuals. And guests will share these great things and information for folks. So let's discuss people. First of all, myself and my daughter participated in your program. I had watched one of your summits and was intrigued and signed up and thought, detox, what's that all about? And I ought to try this. And so I signed up for it and watched the process evolve. And after completion, my daughter Jill, I said, you need to try this. And she did much longer than I did, and again, received optimal results. Can you talk about this a little bit, Laura, why we need to detox?
I'm so glad that you're asking this question, because I find that in today's world, the Western medicine model, which I worked in for over 25 years, isn't really solving problems for people. And we're finding that women in middle age are finding their energy is going down. Our brains are not as sharp as they used to be. Maybe our concentration and focus isn't quite as good. Maybe our creativity isn't great anymore. Maybe we're not sleeping. Hormones feel dysregulated. Joints are achy. Headaches can be a problem. Maybe it's moodiness or anxiety or depression that's creeping up. Maybe it's bloating after you eat, feeling like you can't eliminate your bowels every day. And as we age, we're going to our doctors and we're trying to get answers for, why don't I feel like this? Why do I feel like this? And what can I do about it? And one of the common things we hear is, well, you're just getting older. You're aging. And I dispute that. I'm living proof. You're living proof.
Yes.
I actually look younger today than I did 10 years ago. And so I would say that in order to solve these problems, it's not going to be a prescription that's going to save you. It's not going to be a pain medicine for your joints, or an antidepressant, or a migraine abortive medication, or a digestive medication. You really got to dig a little deeper. And it really starts with gut health. Now, this is something I teach a lot in my classes, is that the gut microbiome wasn't discovered by what we know today as medicine until 2001. So it's really a brand new concept. Now, natural medicine has known for thousands of years that the gut was important, but the actual living bacteria inside of the gut microbiome were not isolated and identified and researched and acknowledged as a real thing until 2001. So that means in 1995, when you went to your doctor for a problem, they were not thinking about your gut. But today, in 2024, even your Western medicine doctor may suggest to you to take a probiotic. And quite frankly, there's a probiotic for sale on every store shelf in America. You can go to the grocery store, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Walmart, it's there. And it's not necessarily a high quality probiotic. And you can watch the news and you're seeing take a probiotic. So we've come a long way. Now, the next layer that really needs to be taught is the impact that the gut actually has on your mood and your concentration and what your skin looks like. And it's more than just digestion, right? So there's more to the GI tract than just digesting your food or taking a probiotic. It goes deeper. And that's really the work that I did with you and your daughter, is we went deeper, because the gut microbiome, you can think of it like Grand Central Station for every process in the body. It's communicating with your immune system, with your cells, with your nervous system. There's a super highway between your brain and your gut. It's connected by your vagus nerve. So the gut is really central, and it's something that we really need to look at.
Oh, that, when I think about, you've said so much, but when we talk about the connection to it all, are you suggesting that if someone has a heart condition, diabetes, maybe onset of Alzheimer's, it could be related to the gut issues?
It is related to the gut issues. Yes. So not just could be, it is. In order to reverse any of these things, we have to work with gut. And usually I tell people that's where we need to start, because what's underneath, so you mentioned some big diseases like cancer, like Alzheimer's, like heart disease. What's underneath this is inflammation. So chronic inflammation is the crux of it all. And in order to reduce inflammation in the body, we got to get Grand Central Station working so that all the systems that are connected can actually do what they're supposed to. The immune system can come back online. A healthy inflammatory and a healthy immune response is going to help start reversing some of this damage and also preventing progression, right? So a lot of times with what I would call an end stage inflammatory disease process, like Alzheimer's, for example, is it likely that we're going to reverse Alzheimer's once you get there? No, very unlikely. But can we slow down progression and create a better quality of life for the person suffering from it and the family members who are helping this person? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I wouldn't make a claim, oh, we can reverse Alzheimer's if we give you a gut restoring. That's pretty advanced inflammatory disease. And quite frankly, I haven't seen anybody reverse Alzheimer's. But what if we could prevent it? And what if we could slow down the progression? Would that be worth it for people? And I say yes.
And I think with Western medicine, or just people's mindset, they think that, well, mom had heart disease, so I'm going to have it. Mother had diabetes, dad had it, runs in the family. So we're all going to get it, like it or not, we're going to get it. And I do know from doing Kashif Khan's DNA tests that 20% is, yes, it is our DNA. And there are things that we can adjust by doing that to improve our systems. But 80% is personal choice. It's lifestyle. And I think that's what you're addressing, is the 80%.
Exactly. So there's some of our DNA and our genetics that is set in stone. And there's most of, so a genetic predisposition to something is not a death warrant, right? Like does not mean that you're actually going to express that disease. Just because you have a genetic possibility of it happening does not mean it will happen. And you have a lot of control over this. And I don't know who first said this. I don't take credit for this, but genetics loads the gun and then your choices fire it, right? So your choices, your environment, that's what fires the gun. So just because there's a bullet in the chamber doesn't mean it's going to destroy something.
Right. Well, and we're talking about, fixing the gut, but doesn't it just start with the choices that we're making when we go to the grocery store, we go to the restaurant? It's never too late to start changing or making different choices.
Yeah. So here's the crazy thing, Susan. You can actually change the health of the bacteria in your gut, the good guys and the bad guys, in one meal. In one meal, you can shift that. So I want you to think about, I'll just give a great example. I was at Disneyland on last Sunday. And when you're at Disneyland for, 15 hours or something, you end up eating the food, right? So I bring some snacks and stuff, but I got to eat a couple meals while I'm there. And so I'm eating the Disneyland food. And the next day, I'm tired. Obviously, I was also walking around for 15 hours, but it's beyond that. Like I'm mentally fatigued. My digestion is off. My daily bowel elimination the next day wasn't normal. Within 24 hours, it was like I threw an atomic bomb in my gut, right? I know I ate some preservatives and chemicals and herbicides and pesticides that I wouldn't normally eat. And it hurt me, right? Within 24 hours. On the flip side, when you eat a meal that is just healing and supportive to your body, the next day, you oftentimes feel much better. Within that much time, you maybe slept better that night. The next day, you're more productive. Maybe your workout was easier. Maybe you were kinder to your family. It's all related, right? It's all related. So don't ever underestimate the power of making a good food choice. Now, here's the thing I would say, Susan, is that we've normalized feeling lousy. We've normalized feeling lousy. And once you start to shift this and feel better, you realize, oh, that's not how it has to be. I don't have to feel like that every day. And I actually have choices around this. But it's crazy how we normalize the sluggish, the poor sleep, the joint pain, the headaches, the moodiness, the not pooping every day. That's just the way it is. I'm getting older. And I say, no, it doesn't have to be that way.
I agree. I think we often, again, go with the old story. Mom did, dad did. It's just the way it's supposed to be. You know, she was this individual that had struggled with these issues. And so I do too. And they just accept it as the norm instead of like fighting back. No, it's not the norm. You can make a difference. You don't have to be your mother, your aunt, your father. You can be you, and you have the choice to make these changes. And it really starts right in the grocery store, what we're doing, the meal choices we make. You said in one meal, we can make a difference. Tell us some examples of, things we could do different today when we go to the grocery store.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was actually interviewed on another podcast earlier today, and we talked about this very topic. And I'm going to pick on Trader Joe's for a second, okay? Because it's in a lot of cities in the United States where most of your audience is going to be listening. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're out of the country, Trader Joe's is a grocery store, and they actually are a really fun place to shop. They treat their employees really well. They have all kinds of fun products. But I want to caution you that under the disguise of health, and this is good for you, is actually a lot of hidden processed food. So the word processed food actually is very subjective. People have a different idea of what processed is. Some people, when I say processed food, they think of the drive-through at, McDonald's. That's just classic processed food, right? But I would also suggest to you that as soon as we cut a vegetable, if I cut up a carrot, it's actually processed at that point. You're no longer eating it whole the way it came from the earth. And sometimes we got to process it a little bit to cook it and to, have diversity. Like, who wants to just chomp on whole carrots all day long? You want to roast them, you want to steam them, you want to saute them, whatever you're doing. So you got to cut it up. And so don't confuse what I'm saying here. My point is, processing, there's a spectrum to it, right? So back to Trader Joe's. Oftentimes they have a lot of convenient foods ready for you to go, to grab out of the freezer, to grab out of the refrigerator case, dips and spreads and salads and, prepped things. And once you start looking at the ingredient list, you're going to find, oh, there's like extra stuff in here that I don't even know how to pronounce. Well, that's because it's a preservative, or it's a flavor additive, or it's a color additive, or it's something to make it more palatable, or it's something to protect it from going bad. And now all of a sudden you're eating a processed food without even realizing it, right? Maybe it's not the McDonald's drive-through, but now you're eating processed food. And people may say, but Laura, I'm so busy and I don't have time because I work and this and that, and I rely on that. And it's the only way I can get food into my family. And I get it. So I'm not suggesting that perfectionism is possible, but what if you could shift one meal a week? Or 2 meals a week, where you could actually get the raw ingredients and create it yourself without anything that came from a jar, package, can, or a plastic container, and you actually just created it yourself, right? What if you got the vegetables and the meat and chopped them up and roasted them in the oven, and maybe you put some salt and pepper on it and some olive oil, and there it is. And it's so unprocessed, right? The only processing is the chopping at this point. What if you could do that a couple times a week? Could you shift the health of your family and yourself? Absolutely. So the first thing I teach is perfectionism isn't possible, and don't even try to do it. If you try to just say, okay, I throw my hands up, I'm not shopping at Trader Joe's anymore, I'm going to make everything from scratch, you will fail because you're not used to that.
Mm-mm.
And you haven't built your life around that. But what if you could just shift one little bit at a time?
Yeah, that's such good information. And the fact that, our families, at least I do, I kind of cycle my same menu all the time. It may not be Taco Tuesday or Pizza Friday, but I do have certain foods that I do prepare, and to make them from scratch, maybe turn it into a vegetarian pizza versus something with some meat on it, remove the salamis and the different things from your menu, and change it up a little bit different. It all makes
Well,
sense.
you're bringing up a point. So diversity and variety is really important to the gut microbiome. Now, we get all these beautiful nutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and it all comes from the different colors that fruit and vegetables are made of, and grains and meat. And so part of it is the coloring of what we're eating. And part of it is just the nutrient profile of each food. And if we eat the same thing day in and day out, it doesn't give the nutrients that the good gut bugs need to flourish. So one of the first things that you can do when you're looking to improve your health is start eating more variety and diversity. So go to the grocery store and pick the vegetable that you almost never cook. Or the thing that, you even wonder, how do I cook this? Look it up on Google. I mean, Google is good for a lot of things. You can find recipes for artichokes. What are the different ways I can make this? Recipes for rutabagas. When's the last time you ate a turnip or a rutabaga or a beet? Or, start looking up how to make these things, or celery root. Like, do you know what to do with that? A lot of us really get stuck with carrots, potatoes, corn, tomatoes, lettuce. When's the last time you bought radishes and sliced them real thin and threw them in your salad? I mean, some people listening are like, me all the time. And a lot of people are thinking, oh yeah, only when I eat in a restaurant do I ever eat that. So start adding variety and diversity to help support your gut. I mean, this isn't rocket science. It's really simple, and it doesn't actually end up costing extra because you're eating anyway.
Yeah.
You're eating anyway. And what I would say is, some people say, no, Laura, it's more expensive to buy those fancy vegetables. Okay. At the end of the year, you might spend a couple $100 more on vegetables if you shifted it up a little bit, but wouldn't that be worth it? We're not asking you to do a $10,000 thing, right?
Right. And I also think, just by changing, if you do a salad and you're doing a salad every day that's just lettuce, but if you start adding a little bit of a radish, you shave some carrots in there, you dice up a little bit of an apple, and you put that out on the table, maybe roast some pecans and put that on top. Oh my
My
goodness.
gosh, so good. Chop
You're
up some
gourmet.
dates. When's the last time you ate dates? Chop up some dates and put them in there. And my favorite recipe for salad dressing, it's so simple. This is what I always make. I do it multiple times a week. I don't measure anything. And everybody who comes to my house is like, do you have that dressing? Do you have that dressing you always make? Literally, I take olive oil and I pour it in a canning jar and I just eyeball it. Maybe it's a half a cup. And then I put another eyeball it, half a cup of balsamic and champagne vinegar kind of mixed, or maybe it's apple cider vinegar. I just do like half and half. And then I add squirts. I get these squirt bottles of Dijon mustard. I add that in, shake it up, and that's my salad dressing. You could get fancy and add garlic or shallot or strawberries or orange, peel, orange zest or lemon, or you can add all kinds of stuff. You add herbs, fresh herbs to it. But that's my base. And that's what I usually eat on every single salad. And that's what people want. So it doesn't have to be hard. It gets to be super simple. Let's just keep it really easy.
And I remember you saying in an interview about, you have a very busy life. You are go, go, go all the time, and with different time zones as well. So you got an extremely long day. How do you manage to do your meal prep and to try and keep your family on task, so they're not going to grab some, well, first of all,
Yeah.
they're probably not grabbing something frozen out of the
Yes.
freezer. You're not allowing that. So what are you
Yeah.
doing?
Well, there's a couple things I do. So number one, I'm married to the most amazing man, and he is a grocery shopper. He loves to grocery shop. I don't grocery shop. He does it. Now, let's say he didn't like to do that. There's Instacart, there's Amazon grocery. There are ways to get this stuff delivered to your house where you just get exactly what you want. And it helps prevent you from having that problem where you are putting stuff in the grocery cart that you do, like stuff just sneaks into the grocery cart, right? When you're perusing the grocery store, oh, I'll try this, oh, I'll try that. If you're online shopping, it's harder to do that. You kind of have your grocery list and this is the thing I'm going to cook and the menu and you've got your shopping list and you just get those things. So it's very easy to get them delivered. But I happen to live with a guy who loves to grocery shop. In fact, I have to pull him back sometimes, like there's too much food in the house, please stop. You can find some really good deals at Costco. I want to share Costco can be a fantastic place to get organic meats, fresh wild caught fish, organic produce. It depends on what part of the country you live in, but most Costco's will have this. And so a lot of what we will do is really simple things like vegetables and meat in a skillet or in the oven or just something super simple. We'll also batch cook using our pressure cooker. That's a great way to just cook things fast. That's my favorite way to do beets, by the way, Susan. So, beets can take a while to roast in the oven. Instead, you can literally just scrub them. Don't even unpeel them. Just scrub the dirt off, throw them in your Instant Pot for, I think it's 20 minutes and let it slow release. And then you can thumb the skin off under running cool water and it just all peels. And then you have a perfect roasted, it seems like a roasted beet. And I do a combination of yellow and red, and then I'll throw them together with like some chicken and some, feta cheese and that salad dressing I just explained to you. And toss that and maybe throw some orange wedges in it. And that is a perfect salad, like beets, oranges, feta, chicken, perfect, right? Maybe some fresh basil. And there you have lunch, right? It's done. And you can batch that. And then my daughter, my 19-year-old will come in and she loves it. She's like, I want the beet salad thing, right? So it's about cooking things that are simple, batching. Another thing I love to do is egg skillets. So I just did this the other day. I had leftover oven roasted broccoli and leftover chicken. So we'd cooked a bunch of chicken. I basically diced up the chicken, diced up the broccoli, threw it in the skillet with some grass-fed butter, heated it up, and then cracked 2 eggs in there and scrambled it. And that was my breakfast. It was leftovers from dinner mixed with eggs. And there's nothing processed about it, except for that I cut the broccoli and cut the chicken, right? It's 100% fresh, real food with no preservatives. Very easy to make. Another simple breakfast thing that I'll recommend is, a lot of times I recommend this to my clients, is make egg casseroles, right? Like take the leftover vegetables from dinner and then dice up whatever meat you want to put in it, chicken, ham, leftover steak, whatever it is. And then make a scrambled egg mix, put that in there and just roast it in the oven in a baking pan. And then you just eat it like a casserole and then, slice it up. You put a little cheese in it if you want, but then you have something really easy, unprocessed, totally made from scratch and grab and go. One of the biggest problems is that women don't eat enough protein. So breakfast is one of the places that they screw up, right? They're eating oatmeal or they're eating yogurt and fruit and it's just not enough protein. And so I don't eat breakfast food. The only breakfast food I eat is eggs. Other than that, I mostly eat leftover dinner for breakfast. Today, I had ground turkey and sweet potatoes for breakfast. That was my breakfast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't have to eat breakfast foods for breakfast is the message here.
You're okay. You had a green light flashing in front of the screen, but it's fixed now.
It's fixed.
Yeah, all better, all better. I want to ask you about leftovers because people have said, there's different theories about leftovers with the histamines in them. That is it okay to be doing leftovers? I grew up in a family where you did repurpose leftovers and got creative with it.
Yeah. So not all people have histamine intolerance. So first off, just because it's out there and popular and a buzzword doesn't mean it's your problem, right? Okay. So I mean, I'm one of those people. I can eat leftovers for a week. I'm fine. It's not an issue. And I know there's some people out there right now going, "What? Food goes bad in 4 days. You're going to die. You shouldn't do that." I mean, some things, yeah, like throw your rice away, sooner than later. There's some foods that'll last longer in the fridge. So But I'm a fan of leftovers. I don't have a histamine problem. If you do have a histamine problem, it might be in your genetics, and there are actual supplements you can take, like DAO, that can help you. There's actually quercetin and different things that can help you break down histamine. So histamine does accumulate in food when it's left over. Most people, I would say most people, do not suffer from this. So you'll know who you are if you have it. But I mean, if you feel absolutely lousy right after you eat a perfectly healthy leftover meal and now you're wiped out, you've got brain fog, you're itchy, you're scratchy, or, maybe you have that and work with a practitioner to figure that out. But I'm definitely a fan of leftovers and making it easy for yourself and your family.
Well, we've talked about food choices. Now, could you shift to the gut health with the food choices you make? How does it work, and how long does it take to really start to make a difference with our gut that would make an impact?
Yeah, like I said, you can shift your gut microbiome in 24 hours, right? You can eat one healthy meal and actually start supporting those good bacteria and driving out the bad bacteria. Now, so I always teach that perfectionism isn't possible. So I want you to start with a couple meals a week and try to do this, try to get the processed stuff out. There's particular foods you can bring in that are helpful to your gut. Things like, so if you have gut health problems, which most people do, probably listening to this, first thing to know is that raw foods are difficult to digest. And so they'll cause bloating, they'll cause irritation. Like every time you eat that salad, you don't feel as great as you think you should. Maybe you've got bloating and some problems there, or maybe you'll see in your stool, you'll see undigested food. So that means eating foods that are cooked are going to be easier for you to digest and easier for your bacteria to thrive on. So eating stews, soups, braises, roasts, sautés, things where your dishes where your vegetables are cooked are going to be a lot easier. So a raw food diet is not always great for you. The goal is to work into being able to eat some raw food, but you don't have to eat raw food to heal. Cooked food is fine, and the easier it is to digest, the better. So that's a really good tip for gut. Now, I'm sure there are people here and listening who are like, I literally eat perfect. I've done everything. I've done gut protocols. So there's more to your story then. And that's where we need to go deeper. And I think for the purposes of this podcast, we're not going there today, but know that for you, if you could eat your way out of it, you would have already. Food is not your problem. It's something else that's holding you back. Maybe it's chronic infections. Maybe it's a toxic load. Maybe it's, certain deficiencies or not enough energy production by your cells in the body, or something is preventing you from feeling better. It's not the food. So I always tell people, Susan, like, if people could eat their way out of this, I wouldn't have a practice, because I tend to work with people who already know about the food piece, right? They've been trying to solve this with food and eating right, and they still don't feel good. So I don't want your audience to think all I have to do is change a few meals and change my food and everything's better. That doesn't work for everyone. It works for some. Others need to do a little deeper work.
Right. When I did the program, I wasn't really suffering from anything with my gut health, but I got a small stomach from a stomach bypass surgery in 1991. And I'm always concerned about absorbing. I want to absorb the nutrients. The best ways to do it. Soft foods work well for my system. And that's when I started working with you, just to learn what other things. My husband had been a farmer for 25 years. And when I worked with you and the tests that we ran, we found the malathion, all the pesticides, all the different things that he would sprayed on the crops. And
Yes.
oh, word, I did in the garden. And oh goodness, it was.
So your weight loss resistance that you had the bypass surgery for was also related to a toxic load, because fat cells are a safe place to put those toxins. And these pesticides and herbicides are fat soluble toxins, and they have affinity for fat cells. So that was part of your battle, was that, right? And the toxins, once they get in, they can be with you for decades. So that's the other thing. People may be thinking, but Susan, you weren't on that farm anymore. That was like, why were those still inside of you? because they were stuck inside of you from decades ago. They were, toxins are very dangerous to your brain and your heart and your liver and your kidneys. So your body's going to pack them away. And a perfect storage tank is a fat cell. It's a perfect place to put toxins. Let's put them over there. So really starting to lower that toxic load is the first step, and to really stop pouring toxins into the body while you're trying to solve your health issues.
Mhm. I think you do such a good job with people, because during that process, individuals were showing and sharing their stories about their healing and how they had gotten better and how they were able to do more things and they were more motivated. I think about someone who might be more of a sedate lifestyle that just says, this is the life I've been dealt. There's nowhere else to go. This is where this podcast, I believe, will offer some insight that yes, you can. It can be one meal, it can be one day, and the changes you make, the choices you make might help you get up and move around the counter, get excited about making a different meal, maybe enjoying doing some of the things that you hadn't been able to do in the past. And we're never too old to make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm always telling our community, is to find the little wins and to really acknowledge yourself for them. Even if you slept one more hour, even if you woke up one less time in the middle of the night, even if you're not quite 100% where you want to be, can you find something to celebrate in there? Can you find something to keep you going? And people get these unrealistic expectations. They say, my goal is to, and they give this crazy goal that's going to take them 12 months to achieve. Like, wait a minute, what can we do in a week? What can we do in a month? Let's start there. And what can we do in a day? And for some people, it's what can you do in the next hour that you can claim as a win to keep you going to the next. Some people need to break it down that small. So allow yourself to do that. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to have this outrageous goal, because it just sets you up for failure.
Yeah. And you think about like New Year's Eve, people make a resolution, and oftentimes the gyms are full of people in January, and then it kind of drops off. But really, you can make that change any day. You don't need January 1 to make the shift in your life. You can do it today. You can listen to this podcast and then think about your dinner tonight, how you want to make a change or a shift in what you're going to do.
Yeah, hopefully people got some good ideas here while we've been chatting. I mean, there's a lot of really simple ways to support yourself. And I mean, I travel with snacks and food too. Especially, so the days that I fly, if I'm traveling, those are my fasting days. So if I'm going to fast, it's going to be on a day that I'm going to be in airports and just sitting around on airplanes doing nothing. Fortunately, I couldn't do that in Disneyland. It's a lot of energy expenditure, and fasting would probably ruin my day. I got to eat when I'm there. I did have some good, meat sticks and I had dried mango with me and some meat sticks and some different things, but eventually I got to eat a meal. But on my travel days, that's when I tend to fast. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Then you don't have to eat all that crap.
So you don't eat for 24 hours when you say fasting?
No, I'll fast during my travel. So usually you're only in an airplane or airport for, I don't know, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. I mean, if you're flying overseas, that's different. I'm talking domestic. And then I won't eat until I get to the hotel, right? So then when I get to the hotel and I have more control over the food, it's not crappy airport food or airplane food, that's when I'll eat.
Right. So
I'll just drink black coffee. I drink my black coffee and I just fast for that day.
Yeah, I like the idea of an 8-hour fast or a 12-hour fast, like
Good for us every
intermittent
once in a while.
fasting.
It's good for us every once in a while. Yeah. Sometimes you got to build the muscle, right? You got to do that a few times at home to see if you can do it, right?
Right.
Or just bring snacks. Bring snacks in the plane. I'm the first person. If I ever encounter you on a plane, you will always see me passing on whatever they're passing out. I will not eat it. It's always full of seed oils. It's full of preservatives, flavorings, chemicals, even like the Southwest peanuts. No way. I won't eat them. There is absolutely no way. And I just pull out my own snack that I brought with me. And I actually kind of a water snob too, so I won't drink their water. By the way, the best water you can get in the airport is, oh my gosh, the brand is eluding me. Smart Water. That's the one. Smart Water is the cleanest water that you can buy in a bottle. And by far the cleanest water. And you can get it in almost any airport.
Yeah, I think it is readily available.
Mhm.
Well, I think this has been so good. Thank you. Thank you, Laura, so much for sharing all this information today and for being my first person to be interviewed on living well and aging better. Today, we've learned about the positive impact that can be made by changing our food choices, whether it's in the grocery store or at home. It's important to plan one step at a time. And if you're struggling with health issues, maybe try something new. Maybe it's a detox program. Learn more about that to improve your health. Always know help is available, and there are steps we can make to make positive differences in our well-being. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow me on Instagram or Facebook. I would invite you to share my website with your friends and family. They can sign up for my upcoming newsletters and podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on the platform where you're listening to this today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's been fun.
Please share with others how they can find you.
Thank you, Susan. You can find me at laurafrontiero.com or at laura.frontiero on Instagram. My last name is spelled like the Great Frontier with an O on the end. I've been saying that for 25 years since I married my Italian husband. It's been a pleasure, Susan. Thanks so much for having me on here today.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Thank you, Laura, and you have a beautiful day.